We know at the United Way what they've been up to. They're busy trying to focus on a number of key factors as part of the United Way campaign and, assisting to try and tackle some of the challenges in the community. And we're ready to talk about another one of them today. It has to do with income stability. Matt Lynn is back, the Director of Community Impact at the United Way. Hello, Matt.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome back. Ben Damerow's back with us, too, from Michigan Works, co-chair of the United Way Income Team. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us today. This is a major thing, isn't it? The ability to keep people's incomes steady.
Absolutely.
And this is a major factor in what you do.
This is a very big factor in what we do when we start looking at how do we help support households becoming stable. Mm-hmm. The ability for families to really consider above and beyond just, taking care of their basic everyday needs, but being able to afford the home of their dreams, being able to afford the opportunity to save for their children's education down the road. All of that revolves around income and how we really consider the idea of removing barriers and creating support services for individuals that want to become more economically and financially stable.
So when you look at that, how do you figure out what to attack here? I mean, is it the same issue for everybody? It must vary.
It does. It absolutely varies. I think around the office we joke and say with this particular issue area, you can throw a dart and you're going to hit the right place.
Wow.
But it took us really boiling down where are the essential pieces in this, knowing that there's a lot of different areas you could cover. And where we landed was really two key areas. The first around housing and making sure that people have stable and affordable housing. And that includes the transition of people who may be coming out of a state of homelessness into a house for the first time or maybe a rental situation for the first time. The other is more upstream when we talk about those that are in a home already but may be at risk of losing that home. And how can we help to really stabilize that to either maintain that home or to be able to move into a higher quality type home that is still affordable and still stable for them, and even may keep their children in their same own school environment instead of having to move all the time. The other was around workforce and income support. So as people get employed, how do we make sure that we're providing the right supports for them to be able to maintain employment or to progress in their employment endeavors?
Well, and that's where Ben's expertise comes into play, being an employment specialist, an employment-focused person. This is really a big part of the center of this.
Yeah, it's essential. Ensuring that individuals have the skills that employers are looking for. So there are several organizations that have been funded through the United Way that have that very specific focus, are working with individuals on a daily basis, providing the soft skills training to ensure that, that they're showing up to work on time, that they're dressed appropriately, that, basically that they're meeting employers' needs. So it's not only that the soft skills part, but the technical skills as well. So there's a lot of partnerships with the community colleges and different training organizations just to ensure that people are being prepared for the workforce.
We're talking about the United Way and the focus on income stability. We'll take a break at 8:14 and come right back on 95.3 WBCK. We're talking with the United Way this half hour, a check-in on a number of the goals with particular respect to income stability and the work being done there. Matt Lynn and Ben Damerow are with us today. Ben, you talked about the soft skills thing. I just want to talk about that for a second because, those of us who've been, in the workforce for a long time might sit back and listen to that and say, really? We don't know that we have to be to work on time? This happens. Somehow the message didn't get through.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it on a regular basis. So it's one of those foundational skills that, you feel like most people understand. They learn that growing up. But for some reason, it falls through the cracks. So just ensuring that people, have those skills is very important because that's what leads, to your first job. And then building upon that and ensuring that that they do have a stable life and family and leads to self-sufficiency.
Well, it makes sense. If you're worried about the income stream stopping or you're worried about the home situation this is going to distract from all of that.
It certainly is. One of the things that, I've learned from Ben is when we talk about the idea of supply and demand, and we talk about the demand of really our local employers in terms of what they need as a skilled workforce, and certainly our local supply, those that are really prepared to be able to take on those jobs. And that takes a variety of different, elements when you consider that. So when you talk about soft skills, just the education, of it. Do we have a workforce that's really prepared educationally? And it's not just about high school diploma. That means really the skill sets, that are there and the opportunities to really connect. We talk about, the other intangible items. Transportation is a big factor when we talk about really the ability to be able to gain and keep employment. Childcare, is another one of those factors. And even now when we start looking at the intersections of housing and employment, and usually those run parallel in systems, they don't really intersect and overlap, but really we've taken more of a strong position to say, let's look at the totality of what's happening with our households. And so when we talk about economic stability, it really is the full gambit of, how do we make sure that we're encircling and really looking at the wrap supports that are necessary. So when you got folks who are at Michigan Works and they're really looking to actively look at job opportunities, we also want to make sure we can remove barriers for the short term and the long term.
And these are not light barriers. Some of these are heavy barriers. I mean,
yes, they are.
Somebody doesn't have a way to get to work, then that's going to be an issue, or some place for a child to safely be while they're working. These are all tremendous things. There's also tax return support that's going on here. What is this about?
Yeah, this has been one of, I think, the greatest endeavors we've had really regionally over the last few years. And it's what's called our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, or VITA for short. And this actually is a free program that actually offers free tax help for people who generally make right around $54,000 to $55,000 a year. To have their taxes done for free by a skilled volunteered preparer, or the ability to be able to learn how to do and manage their taxes on their own each year. A great endeavor. Goodwill Industries, both here in Battle Creek and in Kalamazoo, have been the principal partners in providing coordination support for this particular endeavor for quite a long time. We're really very excited about them stepping up as an institution on both sides and really taking more of a lead role. So, what this is really about providing the supports necessary for people to get their taxes done who are more of our working poor, or those that we call our ALICE population, our asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So people are able to come in. They provide support for either federal tax returns, state tax returns, even credit only returns. So if you are someone who's either on public assistance and can claim credits, or if you happen to be on a fixed income, if you're a senior, or if you have a disability and you don't work but you get public support, you can come to these places. And actually the volunteers they have, we have usually around 15 to 16 people who have gone through 24 to 40 hours of training to be IRS certified as tax preparers, so they really do know what they're doing. You come in, you can actually schedule for an appointment. 211's been a great partner in providing scheduling support for people who want to schedule a time at a site to get their taxes done. They do walk-ins as well if people just come with documentation. So they really do a well-rounded support service for that.
What's the overarching notion there that folks might not realize some of the things that they could take advantage of that might help their situation? They might have a refund coming. Maybe they don't know what credit that might involve. All of this comes into play. Is that true? Yeah,
it's the whole nine. Just to give you some ideas, in 2015, from last year's tax season, we had in Battle Creek, we had about almost 1,100 recorded tax returns that came through our VITA sites.
1,100?
1,100, and that equated to just a little over $2 million that came back in total returns into our local economy. And in Kalamazoo, comparably, it was around a little less than 3,000 tax returns that were filed in Kalamazoo County, and that was right around $2.4 million that came into the local economy. So that's a big boost when we talk about certainly households that could really need the support and really don't have the money necessarily to pay for their taxes to be done elsewhere. But one thing to note, we're not in competition. This isn't a competition for clients. We certainly encourage people who may have more substantial taxes that need to be done. Maybe the VITA site isn't for them.
Got it.
But it is there as a support system, certainly. And like I said, Goodwill's been great about stepping up. And our other local partners around kind of the Battle Creek community, we've got Goodwill, you've got Blue Ox. A credit union has been a great partner. We've got the VA Medical Center actually this year that's also running some VITA sites. Calhoun County Senior Services, the Burma Center, Albion College, Community Unlimited down in Union City. So we've really got a full scope around Calhoun County of organizations stepping up to provide this support service.
And a place to do that, which a lot of them are centrally located to a number of different folks, which is important to consider too.
Absolutely, and are accessible.
When we come back in a second, we'll talk a little bit about workforce development, which is something we've heard a lot about, and BC Vision has talked about a lot, and we'll discuss that as it relates to income stability in just a minute. A few more minutes with Matt Lynn and Ben Damerow as we get updated on the United Way and the campaign that part of which is focused on income stability and issues therein. So we've been learning a little bit about how they try and attack this. Workforce development is, this is going on all the time, trying to figure out how to match the need with skills out there and thus folks with jobs who need that. This is part of this too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And really, with BC Vision, what we've been doing with the Workforce Development Action Team, we've been engaging the community. We have over 20 organizations that helped us out last year with our opportunity fairs. So we targeted high poverty, high unemployment areas. We went to where individuals were already meeting, so we partnered with a lot of faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, and provided services on site. So we were doing resume review, mock interviews, charitable union provided clothing for professional clothing. We ended up having a career fair at the end of it. We had over 130 individuals participate, over 20 employers. We had employers that were actually making offers on site the day of the career fair.
How about that?
So, yeah, it was a great opportunity for the community.
Mm-hmm. And the notion is that without that conduit, some folks are just not making those connections. Is that true?
That's correct.
Yeah. So without this opportunity, then they might not be able to find themselves to that point where they can submit that resume, have the right attire, have that interview be successful, etc. They are learning from these opportunities.
Well, it's coming up, I think, in confidence, rather than guessing whether or not a job is right for them and maybe taking anything that comes along the wire. Mm-hmm. It really is about boosting their self-esteem and really preparing them for that time they're in front of that employer to really project confidently and be in the best position possible to be able to get the job that they want.
Well, think about that for a second. That's an interesting way to put that if I am not confident about my ability to present myself as a strong candidate, then that may reflect itself in the outcome of the interview.
That's true. That's very true. It gets back to that idea of when you were talking about soft skills a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The complements, the hard measures of did you get employed, what's your income level, the things we really want to measure as a community.
Now, when we talk about these sorts of things, folks have to think a little bit about what they need to make and how income levels might not be where we need them to be. This is a concern too, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is. I'm going to speak to that, Ben, a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's not only income levels, but looking at it across the sector and some of the disparities in terms of equity. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the African American unemployment rate, it's across the nation 2 times higher than when you look at the white unemployment rate. Mm-hmm. So looking at disparities like that as well, it's a loss of production, it's a loss of GDP when you see that unemployment rate is 2 times as high. So looking at factors like that and being more intentional in terms of how we're engaging specific individuals, it's really key to what we're doing right now.
So somebody's listening to this and maybe they're motivated to help with this. What do they do, Matt?
Well, just remember that our organizational goal, which we're cascading out and asking people to also partner with us on, is over the next 10 years, we want to transition 8,500 households to a place of economic stability. So right now we're at about 60% of our total homes in our region that are at economic stability, and we know we can do better. But it takes a community effort. It takes all of us really pulling our full resources together to make that ambitious goal happen. So what people can do is they can volunteer if they choose to. Right now, we're actually looking at accepting people that would have an interest in wanting to volunteer at a VITA site. They can contact our local Goodwill office at 269-788-6500 and ask for the VITA office, and they can get information about how to volunteer if they'd like. Or people can visit our website at changethestory.org. We've got our partnerships. They can find out what organizations we're working with currently in our portfolio, but also what other opportunities organizations may have as well themselves for them to get involved. This thing doesn't happen in isolation. It won't happen just by United Way and Michigan Works working together. It takes the full community.
Well, and there's the opportunity for you. ChangeTheStory.org is the website to learn more about this. We've talked about just a couple of focuses, zoomed-in focuses here as it relates to income and employment and so on, but there's more to be discussed, and you can see that info at ChangeTheStory.org. Matt and Ben, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
We'll stay in touch and keep updated.